So I've worked on a lot of C3s. I've also purchased a lot of C3s, and because of that, I've seen a lot of stuff that's super sketchy. Wiring, I've seen sketchy fuel lines. I've seen cars that are completely unsafe to drive. I've seen body panels flap in the wind, just all kinds of stuff. But this car right here has one of the scariest things that I've seen in a while. Now let me show it to you. So for the untrained eye, this is just a normal C3 suspension. It has the differential, it has the trailing arm, it's a leaf spring. Can you see what's wrong with it? I'll give you guys another second. So, the way that this suspension is supposed to be is this leaf spring is supposed to be pancaked underneath the differential. It's supposed to have a bolt here, and then also another bolt in the back on each side. So it's 4 bolts that pretty much keep the leaf spring where it is so it doesn't move forward and back. On this car, all 4 of the bolts are gone. How bad is it, you might ask? Well, there's the bracket that the bolts are supposed to go through. It's kind of just chilling right there. The crazy part is that the owner of this car, he had been driving this thing around for years like this. You can see how when I lifted the car up, the spring actually shifted a little bit, and super duper unsafe. The normal way to get the spring out would be basically jack up one end, unscrew the nut off the long bolt, and then just let it down. And then the spring would normally just kind of curl down and just stay where it is. But the problem with this spring is the second I do that, it's going to go boom against the exhaust. So it's going to be very, very interesting to get this spring out. And I think I have a plan of how I'm going to do it. See if it's going to work. So I removed the heat shield and then also the bottom bracket off of this spring. And I noticed something that I didn't notice before is that the pin is this, well, it's a bolt really. The bolt that goes through all the leaves to kind of hold them together, that's broken too. So this spring is like all different levels all over the place. Really scary to take off, but we're going to do it. I think what I want to do is I'm going to get a jack underneath this part of the car with a piece of plywood on top of a board to hopefully maybe stop the spring from springing back down. Then I'm going to take off one side at a time and see what it does. I mean, the problem is, like I said, this middle of the spring is supposed to stay here, but when it's not bolted, it's just going to pretty much fall. So we're going to try to cushion that as much as we can. The easiest way to get the bolt off of this leaf spring is to use the jack and a piece of wood. Now if you just had the piece of wood, it would pretty much slide up the leaf spring and it would never work. So you need to put a pair of vice grips on the leaf spring so that the wood will go against it. Now another thing you want to do if you're working on a lift is you need to support the front of the car because you'll be lifting the back. You don't want it to the car to fall forward onto its nose, because that's a very bad thing to happen. But this is the way that I know how to get these leaf spring bolts off. I've taken the cotter pins out and basically just lift it up until this nut is free, and then take it off and then hope this thing doesn't go crazy. So I'm going to stand all the way back here while we do this. You notice how the spring is like kind of rotated a little bit. Alright, so that, you see that? That's good enough to get that bolt off. Top is 13/16. Basically you just want to put a closed end wrench at the top and then work on getting this bottom nut off. So that's how you do both sides. I've already I put penetrating oil on this already, so it should come off pretty easily. You could do this with power tools, but yeah, it's coming slowly but surely. So here's the moment where I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to lower this as slow as I can, stand as far away from this thing as I can. You know what I should have done? Here it goes. So that is all the way. That is all the way to the floor. You see that? That's all the way to the floor, and now my jack is pinned against this leaf spring. That's interesting. So, alright, I didn't use the third jack. Basically, I just scooted this one back, and it kind of just fell down right here. So, this isn't under any tension really anymore, other than it's sitting on the exhaust, but the exhaust can handle it. Now we're going to go to the other side and see what this looks like when it comes down. That's interesting. There it is. The spring is free. Look how messed up that is. Weirdly though, it's still pretty tight up against the differential. I think I can wiggle it free. Maybe we can wiggle it toward me and have it come out. Now we're gonna have to drop one of these exhausts, but that's not a big deal. There we go. So here's the aftermath. The top leaves, the bolt that went through them, totally broken. But this is all a leaf spring is. It's just different leaves all stuck together with little metal or rubber dividers so they don't squeak. Like that. And then there's this half. Look at this bolt. It goes in this way. And it comes out over here. So obviously this is totally messed up with the exception of these brackets that are holding them together. Let's look in here. So that's the issue right there. Is 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts are broken off. What's amazing to me, this car has newish brakes, shocks have been replaced, the exhaust is new, and nobody told the owner about it. They should have seen it, but it's been digging into the cover. It's been broken for so long. So what will probably have to happen is the diff will probably have to come out. These bolts are broken off pretty high up in there. I might try to get those out, but it's going to be very difficult to do that. So one step at a time. At least now what I can do is I can take these strut rods out, the shocks out, all the extra things that he's getting redone. And it won't be any extra work if we have to end up dropping the diff.